Welcome back, one and all. Zoe here, joined by Mitch and Matt, and we made it to the last match of the day. This ought to be a good one. I'm just going to manifest a banger. I'm going to speak it into existence. It's going to be a rematch. Shikigami won 3-0 in their opening match, so none of the stats back up my banger theory, but Daybreak, they were extremely dominant in their elimination match versus Final Gambit.
Yeah,
one could say that Final Gambit didn't quite push them, but no, I'm running with my narrative.
So what would back your narrative up, though, Zoe, is that the game we are playing this week is
different.
Not the same game we were playing last week, the week before. I mean, it's been kind of thrown on its head a little bit, and you know, we see like Beluga's Platoon like in the last series, right? Like obviously, you know, a really talented team. I think they had like a top 4 seed. Like they end up going home probably earlier than what they would thought. I know the meta kind of just flips its on its head. So maybe we have ourselves a game.
I think you probably agree with this though. Is that like the kind of comp that like Malga represents can definitely expose teams who are not able to be as coordinated. I think it's something we talked about, right? Because it has the stability. Shouldn't we get that comp right? It has the stability that the GOATs did, but like a greater level of volatility because of where the game's at right now. The high damage that Malga offers, and also again that DPS passive that limits healing, that cuts it down, that prevents teams from stacking healing and being literally unkillable. So I don't mind the use of the transitive property here. I don't mind, you know, that discussion. The game is different, right? But that level of coordination, right, is something you need to lean on even more now than before, I would say, when it was more, you know, individuals that could dictate how a fight would flow. Capiche?
Yes, to a point. We'll have Nepal here to kick things off. I think it does obviously offer some volatility. I'm just thinking about when Magic Maypal said that like you're basically invincible for 4 seconds during cardiac overdrive, especially like with the Reaper into play. So like, I think probably what you're looking at is like, you know, hacks and viruses, how you end up kind of, you know, maybe trying to burst the target down with that, but then also, you know, can you get maximum value out of that big cooldown from Maga? We'll see though, as Daybreak, they come in. This is an 8-9 matchup. Shikigami, like you mentioned, won 3-0 the last time. So we'll see what Daybreak decides to do. Do you have a... nope, we're going to have an even matchup. I thought we were going to see Maria. I thought she was going to play the ball there for a second. I would have been surprised.
That would be very surprising, yeah. But this is the kind of map we've seen on before, right? You can really cause a lot of problems if your pathing is good and you have some environmental kills to your name. So I'm a Reaper for both sides here. So again, we are looking very closely at how the neutral fight plays out. And so far, Shikigami and Hikari playing very much around the corner here, just trying not to take any damage and feed any ultimates whatsoever. Virus on Mari here. Don't think she's bothered.
No, so I think both teams, like nobody wants to be the one that kind of like has to expend these cooldowns out first, right? So you just kind of like poke and poke and poke. Melophobia gets quite low there, but healed up now. This is just going to build up towards the EMP. Nobody wants the point. Yeah, who cares about the point?
So these two teams would rather play for the ultimates, I think, and you know we'll track that as a sort of a measure of progress, I suppose. Cardiac overdrive here popped for Shikigami, and already before the EMP came in from Melophobia, there was an elimination. Murray, she's brought down. That's not good. Okay, Thunder Rabbit at least even the ledger somewhat with the Coalescence in play and a Sound Barrier being laid here for Daybreak. Jutsu not benefiting from it. Another environmental kill. That's 2 in a row from Thunder. EMP still maintained by Shikigami, but your opportunities for good connection on multiple players now are severely limited. And my goodness, this Lucio is throwing fear into the hearts of Shikigami.
Oh man, almost another environmental kill there for Thunder as the fight now ends up moving on to the point. That's an EMP there from Vintage. Cage match dropped as well there. So now this will be a full team wipe here for Shikigami.
That is tragic that Daybreak actually gets 0% from that fight. Shikigami actually sneaked the point early and never truly left it, despite Daybreak having some fantastic moments in their previous engagement, ones that would have led you to think they were winning the fight.
Yes, now we'll see Daybreak going to be forced to kind of break out of their spawn a little bit. It's Mari Cardiac overdrive used there. Oh, instead of Noctis now, though. The environmental kill's been crazy so far this round.
How many Thunder have she had? 2 in the previous fight? Almost a third by the looks of things. I think it had to be a translocate away. Noctis finding a key one there, but what really matters, bragging rights aside, is that number that is ticking up on Shikigami's side of the scoreboard. Daybreak have not captured the point yet this round.
So, man, this is looking really difficult here. We've seen so many fights not having on the point. Yeah, nice boop. That's going to be the Kitsune rush. So you don't exactly want to run directly into that there if you're Daybreak.
Well, where do you go, really? You play back inside your own spawn. Mari, she couldn't get away. That's it. It's about done here, Matt. We'll have Shikigami push up, hold this room. Maybe some back-capping pressure from Daybreak, but it's unlikely they'll be able to put together anything more than that. Very one-sided, with a very drawn-out first fight to start this map. Shikigami really had their eyes on the prize.
Yeah, it was a lot of like, they're just kind of like neutral fighting on the side there for a while, and then, no, we got like, what, 2 fights maybe over the point, but that was about it as, Shikigami, let's take a look here. So, some of these boots.
Oh, no, the ages. That's brutal. Okay, you know what?
But you still got a dub? Still got a dub? All right.
Again, quite a volatile fight that Daybreak wanted to push into Shikigami as they were the ones positioned in like the arguably more dangerous place near that sort of overhang. Regardless, again, like you said, Matt, it's all about the dub. We can back here over these comps, no big changes. We have a Moira for Daybreak, whereas the Kiriko for Shikigami, that's it.
So Mari gets pinned in this corner right away as Thunder gets quite low.
Suzu used.
Cardiac overdrive wears off.
Unkillable is Mari, but Jitsu can't claim the same accolade. They'll be picked off right at the beginning, and no Reaper, no party.
Stomp right onto Thunder there as Aspect pushes on in. This will be point for Shikigami right away, so looking very good here on these Maga-based compositions. So we've heard, you know, Naga earlier talk about how it's similar to Goats that last match. Nepal, kind of marketing back to, you know, the zombie comp. I mean, Mari getting so weak, nothing she could do.
That's so much damage. Again, you have nothing to mitigate that whatsoever. Maybe you're just, you know, not looking to make use of defensive cooldowns there. Either way, like you really need your Malga to get in position and not just stand there and get peppered down.
Malga doesn't really have, like, outside of the cardiac overdrive, doesn't really have like defensive capability, like no obviously like shield or anything like that. Like kinetic grasp can kind of like, you know, turn damage into shielding. This will be an EMP, a huge one there from Melophobia up on the high ground, and this should get Daybreak the point.
Pretty perfect. Hits everybody on Shikigami, and the follow-up is timely as well. It's, you know, even the placement, the timing, execution, all great. Very well deserved point flip here for Daybreak, and again, it's so efficiently done. What do they do? Spend an EMP for that? That's going to really bode well further down the track when they've got to leverage some of these other ultimates to stay in control.
Yeah, where Maga's defensive capability outside of the cardiac overdrive, it's like it's just his body like Roadhog, right? Just like just taking up space. Is it's going to be Shikigami trying to get a fight on the point here because you have Rush plus Death Blossom.
Okay, EMP, also Kitsune Rush thrown out here. Daybreak still able to get both of their support ultimates running though. I mean, if that's not enough to keep them in this fight, then nothing will be. Shikigami lean into that ultimate chest. Daybreak make use of what they had saved so far. And so we're left with 2 Death Blossoms.
Yeah, and I kind of like the idea there for Shikigami, right? Drop down to the point. Hey, look at, you know, we'll trade support ultimates. We have an EMP advantage, right? We are open to fighting in this area of the map. And then once they use those ultimates, they did a great job speeding in and following it up. Look at this. I mean, they're making it so difficult on Mari. She gets onto the point. She's just so weak already, taking so much damage on the way in.
She gets lit up again straight away. Double Death Blossom here. It's not an Echo. Unfortunately, Fujitsu. It's very fruitless an attempt. Dan Twist able to absolutely cut a path through Daybreak here. This might be yielding the map in a few moments. There's not much really left for Daybreak outside of this EMP. They're going to need one as good, if not better, as the last one we saw from Melophobia.
Well, they have to get a touch here to even get into OT. And Melophobia gets on the point, has the EMP, but because they're forced to trigger OT, ends up staying on for a second too long and falling.
And again, you got hit by the Malga charge, so you are going to be stunned up, have no chance to make use of that. And Nepal is going to go the way of Shikigami Hikari. Great opener in that first round, never allowing Daybreak to touch. Second time around, a little tougher. But honestly, the only speed bump was that one EMP from Metaphobia that outright won the fight on its own. From there wasn't much else from Daybreak.
Yeah, a lot of these fights today. I mean, just matches, especially in NA. It felt like EU, like the matches were way closer, kind of like more back and forth. We saw some different comps there. But like when you get these mirrors, this feels like those zombie comps or those goats comps, right? Where, you know, these series end pretty fast with how they're going. I mean, this is a really good map here for Shikigami off the start.
And it's really easy to get caught into this way of thinking that like first pick wins fights. In many cases, it does. It's really hard to come back from it because every hero is so crucial to your game plan. Whether it's the Sombra in terms of hacking, finding an EMP, the Reaper with most of that front-loaded damage, God forbid the Malga goes down, the one with the literal cardiac overdrive. So many of these elements are so important.
This is the fight. Yeah,
a highlight.
This is the fight for Daybreak. Yeah, I mean that was the difference maker for them as everybody set up, but it almost looked like Shikigami. You knew that was going to happen, right? They all just kind of sat on the high ground. Okay, let them use EMP, then we come back. You know, we'll have 50% on the point.
And they did not long after, right? And that was a fight where a lot of ultimates were used there. An earlier sound barrier from Thunder, and both teams kept Death Blossoms in. Like there was every reason why the next fight could have been either way either. But Daybreak can't get any connection with their Reaper ultimate. Can't say the same as Shikigami. They find 2 kills, I think 3 eventually for Dan Twist at the end of that fight. And that's basically Nepal all wrapped up in a tiny little bow instead packing. Next one's going to be King's Row. So another King's Row pickup, which is no surprise to see teams gravitate towards this map. Again, we've already seen what Amalgamira can look like here. And the team that maybe is a little less coordinated will suffer for the entirety of King's Row.
This is also a map that you would think these compositions play better on. Think about, you know, the GOATs, think about zombie comps, right? You know, comps that are very high sustain, play together, death bally, like King's Row Streets, King's Row at the beginning, right? Like lots of ways to force people down from high ground. Like, this is a map that should tend well to this. I also think when you get into a situation like this where the meta changes, like flips on its head in like a week, everybody picks maps they're comfortable with. I think King's Row, nobody's like, oh, let's absolutely not play King's Row. We want to move away from that. I think King's Row at this point is like a staple. Like everybody knows how to play King's Row or how to make different comps work on King's Row, right? So I think it's a pretty safe option.
One of the most scrimmed maps, I think, as well. I think it's just a general preference.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the times when teams are scrimming, they are open with King's Row, unless there's a specific map they need to practice for. In the past, right, in the Overwatch League where the maps are like preset. But there's a consensus that King's Row won't be banned through the veto, so everyone tries to practice that as one of the most guaranteed maps that you can see.
I'd love to, you know, whether it be like the main event or in the future, just see like the map pick rates over the course of like, you know, Swiss everything, like of what the pick rate of King's Row is. I feel like it's got to be in the 80s to 90s. I mean, I feel like we've seen King's Row and Blizzard World exclusively.
Yes. That is true. Yeah, Blizzard World again with teams that really like to try
a handful of Midtown, but not really.
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of it. Yes, I feel like we saw it much more in like our first week of games. Not so much this week, that's for sure. Here it is, King's Row. We're coming up next. The quintessential, the OG El Clasico location. Shikigami looking to extend their lead in this series. Remember, this is a rematch. These teams have played before, yes, under a different meta. So different conditions. But Shikigami likely already feel they've had a good chance to get the measure of their foes in that 3-0.
Yes, we'll take a look here with, it'll be Shikigami on defense. Looks like we're getting a little emote standoff here. Ooh, is that a souvenir there?
There might be a little souvenir.
A little souvenir action. They'll actually have vintage play the Sojourn here, so some high ground potential, right? Maybe you want to play something that's a little bit more, you know, hit scan damage.
We've seen it on this map. We've definitely seen it a couple times. Even some teams tried it on Lijiang Tower, I think. Well, you just didn't really have enough time as the enemy team advances to the point, or the places you contest in just didn't lend themselves necessarily to it. But yeah, both sides on the Sojourn here. So disrupt the shot obviously has value as a way to try and impact the pathing of your opponents, at least for a short window.
What do you think about dropping the Reaper, though? Smellophobia gets a kill on Sombra.
Yeah, not great. I mean, yeah, losing the Sojourn here, not ideal. Dan Twist falls. I think I'd rather have the Sombra at the end of the day. Probably one of the most impactful ultimates, excuse me, that you can work with, because you can turn off, you know, Malga's healing. You turn off that cardiac overdrive. That's really important here in order to win those sort of full 5-on-5 fights. Pretty back and forth stuff here. Slowly, Daybreaker trying to maneuver themselves into a commanding position, now finding their second tick. Eventually, Shikigami are going to have to put this to an end.
Yeah, they're going to have to drop, get a touch. Aspect actually got booped up, yeah.
Aspect going to just drop there. I don't know what the plan was for Shikigami, but if Malga was a part, Malga staying alive rather was a part of it, then they've absolutely screwed the pooch on that one. Dan Twist again down. You see the railguns coming in from long range here. So nicely done by Daybreak. I love this. Again, the Sombra inclusion here. Now you build up to that EMP. I wonder how important that boop really was.
Yeah, I mean, it just knocked Aspect offline a little bit, right? I think they tried to Suzu from range. Graveyard just kind of chucked it from Hotel across, but didn't connect. As now they'll actually play with the Sombra in the Reaper. So this part of the map don't exactly need that long range capability. Yeah, it's Daybreak. That's where they may struggle here, right? You just don't have that, like, you know, close range, big, just kind of damage chunking at tanks, like with the Reaper here.
See the Sombra looming and brooding overhead. Bam! And the EMP dropped in instantly. Still the chance though to deploy that Kitsune Rush here from Graveyard. And it's just as well they did. It's going to give Shikigami a fighting chance here. The Death Blossom came in from Dan Twist, but was cut short by Maria Trade. And it will be a Malga down for Daybreak. Not just able to find a couple here, and we have a slowdown for the attackers. Finally, Shikigami able to find some footing here on Kings.
Yeah, this is where I would like to see Daybreak switch and bring the Reaper in. I think having the Reaper here for this part of the map might be like essential. Like, I don't think you're not really kind of like having these like long range battles, like because Shikigami, like, you can just play, you know, corners and whatnot, and then like speed and get in the Sojourn's face if you wanted to, right? Vintage takes some shots, so they'll back up.
Slow and steady here for Daybreak, really ponderously trying to force their way around this corner. Both cardiac overdrives are offline here, so Daybreak take a sidebar. 99 and counting for Vintage. Shikigami have that Sombra ultimate over after switching to it. Definitely feels better than the Sojourn. Glad they seem to agree here, and great connect with the EMP, but the follow-up,
nice virus hit.
Hard to pull off. Speed boost though will always answer that question. And Daybreak get run into the ground.
Yeah, I mean, that's way harder to do than the way they just made it look, right? Vintage uses a translocator EMP around the corner, speed, as he's kind of like landing from using that EMP up in the high ground. He drops down and ends up hitting like the virus at the same time. So really nice play there.
Kitsune for both sides. Disrupt the shot thrown. They know Aspect is playing close, but it's a question of whether or not they can do much about it. EMP from Melophobia could be big here, but too late. They lost Mari again. She capitulates in the face of all that frontline damage. Daybreak consistently struggling to keep their Malga standing.
That's why I think you need the Reaper, right? Like, you need the Reaper to kind of keep the Malga on the other team, like, honest. Like, Aspect, you know, if Cardiac Overdrive's up or has some healing, right? Doesn't exactly even care if he gets hit with, like, a Sojourn shot, right? Just kind of, like, barrels on through it. So, Dan Twist can play this corner. Melophobia gets taken out of stealth on the way in. Gotta go with the EMP anyway.
Oh, okay. Wraithwolf from Dan Twist to avoid the EMP. What great timing. And guess what? There was a Death Blossom to come out of that. Noctis able to find two. And again, Daybreak cannot keep their tank in the fight. So hard for Murray to withstand that. I gotta give it to Dan Twist though. I saw that very clear that they were going to get hit by an EMP. So straight into the Wraith.
A few fights in a row though, and you've had this overclock and you have not used it. I feel like it's time to, you know, pop this, you know, try and get some value out of it. If you don't switch,
clean the windows.
I mean, you just gotta create some space or something, right?
But I mean, that's what you were sort of talking about, why maybe dropping the Reaper is not ideal.
Well, I mean, having the Reaper there, you would have created that space just by the Reaper existing, right?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, you do have a lot of power in your ultimate here. And Daybreak are trying to surge ahead of where the card is. Vintage will have a chance to come back though and have an impact. Yeah, Sojin obviously only reaches Reaper levels of threat during that overclock. Outside of it, its Disruptor Shot is powerful. But with all this healing, I think you can almost ignore it.
Yeah, we have a sick combination coming online here for Daybreak. Mari, she'll have the cage fight, so she goes in.
Doesn't seem to help at all. I mean, Aspect just can't die. It's impossible. They're just saying no damage, or they just heal too much. Whichever one, doesn't matter. Once again, it's in the front line. Daybreak get bowled over.
I was gonna say they had the cage fight plus the EMP. They end up using both, and it almost doesn't even matter, right? Shikigami able just to kind of chunk on down through it.
36 seconds to play for the attackers. They are absolutely snarled up during the streets phase of King's Row. And what do they have to get themselves out? Just a Kitsune Rush?
Yeah, but they're gonna have beat up. Like if Shikigami sees the Kitsune Rush, you can beat this and then just run down it with the Reaper.
That might be the plan here. When's it gonna come out?
That's Cardiac Overdrive used.
Phobia! Solo, Vintage doing a great job finishing the job that Noctis started up there on that high ground. Your Sombra's gone. You have 6 seconds. You won't be able to rejoin the fight with your Sombra in tow, but you'll be able to top up and go for it with 4. That's it. Last desperate ditch effort for Daybreak. And they're immediately going to get caught inside the cage match. They do at least get the Kitsune Rush up, but man, that beat, just like you said, Matt, wait for the rush, send the beat, and then send the rest of your team on a collision course with your attackers. Shikigami able to hold Daybreak off here.
Cage fight plus Death Blossom, even with that sound barrier in play there for Shikigami, you're just not able to break through that if you're Daybreak. So they actually did get a decent amount of payload progress right around the first 2 corners here on King's Row, but I feel like maybe some adjustments needed on the defensive side of things. Like if we get to the streets phase, I think you need to see them bring the Reaper in.
Yeah, no pressure, not enough pressure on the Malga, like we talked about with the Sombra. With the Sojourn. As powerful as she is, and I think Disruptor Shot does have value, I just think we spent so long talking about how ridiculous the rate of healing is with this setup, especially during those aggressive sort of pivots behind Cardiac Overdrive, that no one's noticing that. There's also so many particle effects on the damn screen that you don't even see the Disruptor Shot. You're just like, oh, it's just part of the scenery at this point. Hard to respect it. Daybreak also make that change.
Yeah, they'll play the Reaper on D because I think you need it. Like if you're Daybreak's position, right, and you know where that golden box victory is, what are they like praying to here? What is that? Like a little bird?
I think they're simping for Le Seraphim.
Hi.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm on board.
Well, it was like a souvenir. They were all kind of like, nodding their head yes to. We'll have to get a replay on that.
Yeah, we need to run that back. Thanks, Matt. We'll get the one queued in with our EVS operators. High priority.
I'm gonna put that in our takeaways channel. Need replay.
Oh my goodness, Malaphobia. That is not how you want to start this defensive round. Not at all. That's shades of Lane Roberts there for you, folks.
I mean, that was a sick shot there. And then now, I mean, what do you do, right? You just gonna run on the point, and we are in a fantastic spot here if you're Shikigami.
It's 2 ticks about to come up here. Daybreak sheepishly running on back in. They're trying to hack Aspect here. I think they get Dan Twist instead. Tamago remains hard to break through. Murray down again. Aspect able to stay alive. This time just using the terrain really to avoid that line of sight. Malaphobia though back with a vengeance. They bring Dan Twist to heal. But it's a 3 versus 3. And that virus almost connecting there. Should have updated you, Norton.
I wonder if that was the cleanse there, the Susu, that actually prevented that from landing. It looked like it was on target, but now you're in a rough spot because Daybreak, you have to invest pretty much into every single fight. Shikigami, they can like kind of hold on to some of these ultimates just at this point where the cart's going to be. You see they're going to take this first corner. You're at one good fight and then kind of like a last-ditch effort kind of scenario for Daybreak.
I mean, that's about as subtle as a sledgehammer, isn't it? EMP thrown straight in, but the Kitsune Rush is there in response, and Daybreak don't have anything else to play around. They were hoping EMP wouldn't be enough to stop Shikigami in their tracks. They were wrong. Now they're in an even worse spot. Vintage holds on to that EMP. Shikigami come back into the fight. Maybe they just ignore this Kitsune Rush to some degree. Yeah, disengage from it. They have all the time in the world until it's time to go. And that's gross. Absolutely savage. Aspect just turns up and has no one to stomp on at the end of that charge.
Yeah, and I was, when we were seeing them hide inside by their mega health pack, it was like, okay, if they decide to push up Daybreak through this Kitsune rush, they're going to be on the opposite side of an EMP, and that's exactly what ends up happening. But like I mentioned, they're going to get one good fight, which was that previous one. Now one attempt to touch the point here. It'll be March. She'll get on and give a touch.
Pops the overdrive as well. Lacking backup, I'd say. Now the sound barrier comes down. Aspects can't quite withstand Jutsu's Death Blossom there. It's a lot, to be fair. And nobody else has the damage to really get through Daybreak's healing, so it will be Shikigami crumbling right at the final hurdle, but with an immense amount of time left to work with.
So maybe you can rattle something together here. Graveyard looks like just kind of... We looking for a back-cap scenario here? What's going on? Nope.
Potentially,
get spotted out.
Yeah. I mean, again, you can just like randomly double tap someone down and get close enough, sneak up on them, then TP back to your team and just have won the map there. So
in theory, this should be another fight that Daybreak wins, right? EMP, nothing available for Shikigami. Should be one you're able to kind of like EMP, speed boost in, get a fight win.
Here's that EMP. Should be pretty straightforward this fight. With no Kitsune rush to allow you to claw back from that. Nicely done. One ult fight wins is what you're looking for as defenders here. Ration them out as much as you can. Make them last.
Yep. And look, you get some kills here at the end. Even better, right? Vintage gets quite low. They can't finish. This will be the toughest fight
to build an EMP, right? I mean, that's what Shikigami did. They're in a lost fight, but they don't run away straight away because they want that critical mass of ultimates just to dump on the table, really. Jutsu. Little flick there, love that, but doesn't see Dantua's coming. That's right, Sombra was just the diversion. And the real heavy hitter comes in. Dantua's Death Blossom shut down to some degree here. And that sound barrier is not timely enough for Daybreak. And they'll drop King's Row as well. Shikigami Hikari again seem to have their measure.
It's just a second too light there. It's so... when your team loses like your Reaper or something, it has got to be so... difficult / annoying to be the Maga who has to stand on the payload versus a Reaper and other Maga and Sombra with a Kitsune rush going down and just like, okay, like I'm gonna stand here and try and exist. Where I mean, you lose your Reaper there first, and with all the ultimates that Shikigami had, it's almost impossible to overcome that.
Yeah, absolutely. Lingering, late in that lost fight just to make sure they had their ultimates build up for the next one here. Yeah. Some flowchart Overwatch mixed in there for Shikigami Hikari. They look like a confident team. And again, they seem to be more than happy to take this rematch. Again, here's sort of how it played out. This is where, to start with, Shikigami Hikari lose that first fight pretty convincingly. Yeah. But they managed to build back around that choke here. I think it was like a vintage EMP in that fight that really sets them up.
And I think Daybreak actually could have had a better offense. I think they just needed to move over to the Reaper and mirror early. Like, I think the Sojourn gets good value on that first point, right? Being able to get some high ground, right? Some railgun shots. You can play it like a more medium to long range. As here's, what is that? Looks like a little bird or something.
Chicken, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. This shot, that's pretty sick.
Yeah,
I mean, you're like, come on. Again, was Meliphobia not cloaked in that position?
It looked like he was like uncloaked. Well, you come out of stealth once you start shooting, right? It looked like maybe he had shot and then came out of it. Didn't expect a Widow on the other side.
I don't understand that at all. Okay.
Things happen.
Yeah, things happen. That's extremely deep, Nathan. Thank you very much. There'll be more things happening in the rest of this series here. Colosseo.
After this break, don't come back. Bring young Griff back. I heard young Griff. He's been calling. He's like, hey, like, get me on the phone with Matt. You can just go take a break.
I've got to say, like, you getting paid to say the stuff you say is like the heist of the century. Like, genuinely, the Italian job has nothing on you. Like, not even. It's mental.
If I had a cool accent and like silk shirts, I'd be you.
What do you mean? You be me? We need a few inches at the very least.
Hey, I'm looking taller than you now. Oh. I've grown a little bit.
We're going to a break. I'm done with you. We're going to break. We're going to come back. We're talk about some other stuff. See you in a sec.
Goodbye.
Welcome back, everybody. Yes, at times we were worshipping strange idols, at others it was Shikigami absolutely dominating here, especially when it came to their ult economy in the Malga Mirror. The Sombra Ultimates were absolutely crisp and their front line looked unbreakable. They've taken us to a third and potentially final map in this series, a rematch for them against Daybreak, and they've looked crisp from start to finish, Matthew.
Yeah, and I think this is a meta that is prime for results in the 3-0-3-1 fashion, in the sense that, not... He heard Magic Maple. He's like, I found like one Maga, one trick on the ladder and was mentioning him, right? It's a hero that like not a lot of people like, one trick or play or along those lines, right? Like I think everybody played him a ton when he came out and was pretty strong on release, and then after those adjustments probably went away from Maga to like other tanks who are just stronger. And now having to pick him up because he's extremely valuable, right, and work him into comps becomes difficult. So Daybreak will move away from it. Mari will play the Sigma. So we saw a team do this earlier, play the Sigma in the first match of the day in NA with Obsidian. And then Shikigami, they will keep the Maga. So you'll bring in Vintage here on the Sojourn. So drop the Sombra and you're going to keep the Reaper. I like the idea of keeping the Reaper over the Sombra, just because it gives you a little bit more pressure advantage on the front line.
They are working so hard to keep this Malga comp at arm's length, man. Look how desperately Daybreak are trying to create some space. And Shikigami aren't letting him do that. Again, they are playing on hard mode, Shikigami. I do think that pod comp is obviously pretty good against the Malga setup here. But, hey, they're making it work here. They are running headlong at Daybreak. And guess what? That bot's heading the other way.
Yeah, the bot's just going the other direction, so you'll have Shikigami pushing the bot as like both teams have like somewhat swapped sides here. Is a nice Suzu there, able to keep Dan Twist alive. So now Daybreak's gonna have to like push into them, but you have a few players split off of spawn. Okay, so everybody's gonna get back together. Looks like for Daybreak up on the high ground here, and you're gonna be able to battle out of this. Melphobia building up this EMP rather quickly too.
Spending so much of that fight, yeah, just playing at arm's length here. Safe distance for the Sombra to be at. With the spread being reduced recently, right, it's actually a more consistent way of building up. Nicely done. Dan Twist never getting out of that one. And eventually the Malga comp will get ground into dust here. But again, 326 meters to work with. That's nothing to sneer at.
But those are the type of positions that Daybreak is going to have to fight out of, and it's not a lot of them on the map where like inherit high ground, right? Large gap that needs to be closed. Like that's where you can just like poke down the Maga. Like right here, look at the position they're playing here. Like there's not a great way for Aspect to get close without taking some damage. But now that they've kind of pushed them back down to where this barrier is, that's a fight where Shikigami is okay to take.
Just in the rush here. Gonna try and catch Amari, but again, the kinetic grasp. Good way to stay alive, but look how quickly Sigma collapses when Malga's able to close the gap. Meanwhile, Melophobia just falls to a kunai, which honestly is one of the most common victims of Kiriko, just randomly owning you, is the Sombra.
Yeah. And I think that started off with actually a Daybreak first pick. Like they were actually able to get the first kill in that fight. And then Graveyard drops the Kitsune Rush. They decide to push on in, and nothing you can do once that Maga gets close. So that's where you have to try and create this space. You're Mari and Daybreak.
Looking for a big gravitic flux here is Mari. A little awkward to do that right now. But what's not moving? Shikigami been forced to play somewhat together here in that low room. Maybe group up for a high ground play, and they've done that. The bot though is headed away from the
middle. What a weird start to a Colosseo. We had like them flip sides on like the first push of the bot, and now we flip sides here. Nice stun there.
Great
sound
barrier
for
though.
Both teams.
Just with the Dr. Order mat, especially with that Kitsune Rush overlaid. Shikigami though can fight back from this position. Cage fight doesn't leave I don't really think it catches anyone there. I think again this poke comp's so good at keeping Shikigami at arm's length, but they'd already lost that Sigma in the previous fight. That bot be swinging back the other way.
Yeah, with Lucio, right? Like you can't really create that separation that you need for the Sigma to stay in a healthy, safe range, right? Like once Aspect and like Noctis, they get right on top of Mari, like you get a boop right into like a Reaper. There's nothing you really do. Oh, that's a huge shot they desperately needed as Jutsu takes out Dantwist with a railgun shot from afar, so that's going to send Shikigami backing all the way up.
Yeah, I mean, because once you close the gap, you've got no one to actually capitalize on that proximity without Reaper in play. So Shikigami, yeah, they're so susceptible to being poked down. They've got to group up off the objective, which is actually very good, providing Daybreak can follow up on these EMPs that Vintage wants to deploy. Gravitic here for Aspect, maybe overkill. Amalga was in trouble anyway. I love that, though, interrupted by the EMP. Murray forced a touchdown now without the satisfaction of dumping the Malga into the earth. Melophobia might make one here, but that's about it. We're approaching halfway through the round, and Shikigami once more are back in control.
And just look at that 790 HP with armor and, like, you know, just like even just kind of like a leech you're just having to burn through. I mean, I don't know how you do that without like a Reaper or Sombra, like, you know, characters that can really impact some of those abilities. Is Mari will switch over to the Orisa. So we've seen some teams go to the Orisa, some teams go to Sigma. Really specifically on this map against the Malga, and Abyss gets a kill. So actually a few times, Mitch, throughout this map so far, it's been Daybreak to get the advantage early on in terms of, you know, having a player up.
Yeah,
they just haven't been able to capitalize it. Yeah,
now, often Jutsu, right? A huge pick on the Reaper in the previous fight. Good example of that. This time Abyss just finding purchase with the kunai.
And Aspect are both weak.
All right, here it is. Once more Jutsu with the overclock. And like what Aspect was up to there, he managed to find his way into the backline, but no satisfaction there. Here's the Death Blossom for Dantwist. Somehow got two. That's more than I expected him to come away with.
Yeah.
But Daybreak keep this momentum. They're still in control of the bot. They're still advancing.
I was shocked they even used it. No, you're down like two players. You end up using the Death Blossom tree. You even it up. You're gonna lose the lead here though, and you don't even see like a swap. I thought maybe we see a swap, but Vintage will be the one that makes the changes. Put away the Sombra, go back to the Sojourn.
Build that AMP though. Gonna be big here. The Orisa can capitalize pretty well on that as well. Now Daybreak can afford to stand and fight to a much greater degree than if they just had this Sigma. And they're almost beckoning Shikigami to engage them, so they do, and straight into the EMP they go. Noctis, though, unaffected by that ability, so able to deploy a sound barrier for the rest of Shikigami to shrug off the EMP at large. Cage fight eventually comes down, but Mari needs help badly. Vintage taken down by that virus there. Surely Shikigami able to find a way to get some of these low health targets, but I mean, Terror Surge is so huge. Even when you're low health, the effective health it provides you in that moment, Daybreak are very hard to kill right now.
That is incredible that Daybreak is able to live through that. I mean, that seemed like a fight that Shikigami was going to be able to win in the long run, and that's going to force them to finally move off this Malga. So it's going to be Aspect on the Sigma, Dantwist over to Tracer. So a completely different look now for Shikigami is Daybreak. They found something here that works.
Shikigami, yeah, forced now into the poke matchup. Daybreak again. It's not easy to win it out with this Orisa composition. We mentioned it before earlier today, but once that armor is gone, you feel extremely fragile, very squishy. Not only because you're at less than half HP, you have no damage reduction available. Whereas Aspect has a number of cooldowns he can rotate to stave off that damage. And it buys enough time. Jutsu getting picked off there by a railgun. Vintage enjoying the switch to Sojourn apparently. Are being ignored when necessary in favor of Abyss, for example, and also the Lucio or Thunder. She will also capitulate. Shikigami comfortable in a poke matchup.
Yeah, so now looking at this, Daybreak will still have the lead when this next fight kicks off. Vintage, I like the position they're trying to get control of high ground. Yeah, you're just gonna have the Lucio move the bot. Looks like you actually may even get the lead out of this if you're Shikigami. It's gonna be very close. Yeah, they'll get the lead. Yeah, a pulse bomb here from behind could be huge.
Oh, the damage on Dantwist! What a pulse! Unreal! Double kill for Dantwist there after basically one-clipping Melophobia. That is absolutely disgusting! And that's a checkpoint now for Shikigami out of absolutely nowhere.
Dude, that was sick. As it just gets the kill on Melophobia. Must have taken some damage, like gotten out of stealth, just takes out that Sombra, and then the pulse bomb, perfect, connects with two. For a second, I thought he was going to get the Lucio as well. I thought we were going to see like a 4K there from Dantwist. I mean, that was nuts.
I'm paying attention now, that's for sure. Vantage here, not bothered about the Sombra because once more, Noctis is able to answer the EMP with a sound barrier. Great accretion on the way down. Jutsu had no idea what hit him. And our Aspect can take all this space for free. Just rotate those cooldowns. There's nothing Abyss could have done. That health pack might be hacked, but Melophobia is not getting out of that room alive. The bot got snuck back down the hill during that fight, at least to buy some time for Daybreak, but Shikigami now, they've gone up a gear, Matt.
Yeah, and they're going to push up. You see where Aspect is, put that shield in position, make it very costly in terms of HP to push on through. Is now below a minute on the clock. Daybreak, they had the lead like 10-15 seconds ago, and then once the play from Dantwist happened, everything fell apart.
Another pulse bomb already, almost built up for Dantwist. Playing safe here, doesn't want to get a random accretion splash. Pulse there from behind, like the idea, trying to avoid the kinetic grass that would have sucked it away. With no connection. That one field golds between two of those Daybreak players. Murray, this could be a bit desperation here. They're quite low. Popped up though, and again, they'll get what they want for that one. Kiriko removed. Aspect might have found the tracer, but now Shikigami are going to lose their footing here as time runs out and Daybreak have to push another 50 or so meters all the way.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're okay with that if you're a Shikigami, right? You just need to get ultimates out on the other side, and you got Mari to use the Gravitic Flux, so they can come back, use a sound barrier here, and then their own Gravitic Flux. You can even fight like mid-map if you want, right? You have a few different options here if you're Shikigami.
So much to work with. Again, yeah, you can let this push. Like you talked about, like just
you have to get
high
the
ground
accretion.
position.
You have to get the accretion out or figure out how you're going to like dodge this.
There's the accretion being used. Yeah, going to throw that one to Mari. You cannot accrete while you're kinetically grasping. And that's the Sigma pick. That's got to be enough, surely. Just into the high ground, going to try and fight Graveyard there, and Abyss trying to join with a swift step. They're going to try and overwhelm on the high ground, and so they do. The sound barrier. Great timing for that to come online here. Even without their tank, Daybreak are holding on. They're taking a lot of splash damage, though, from these hyperspheres, and Aspect is being ignored, and he doesn't like that. Great accretion. He'll get two on his own. Gotta respect the tank. Gotta respect the Aspect. And now Daybreak are in deep trouble. Thunder, she attempts to touch, will be forced away. Doomfist returned to the fray, owing, of course, to those mobility cooldowns, but there's not going to be any backup, not nearly enough. Shikigami will take the series.
Yeah, wild there at the end. It's, Daybreak probably in the lead with like a minute and 20, minute 30 to go. Two straight fights go in the way of Shikigami with Dantwist doing some crazy stuff on Tracer, and then there at the end it's a nice Gravitic Flux to kick things off from Aspect, and that's really the start of the end there for Daybreak as Shikigami with a really nice 3-0 win.
Nice to see them switch as well off like the Malga comp, starting to like kind of fill in the blanks on where it is and isn't strong. But kind of sick to also know that Shikigami have a really nasty Sigma set up there. That was really good. We were on board, right? With Aspect being ignored in that last fight. And they said, all right, well, I'll have 2 kills for myself and I'll take this fight over. So, pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, was it a banger of a match? No. But we did get treated to a really clean showing from Shikigami, which is just as good. Daybreak, I feel like they still managed to come out on top of some of the fights here and there. Obviously, there is a lot of talent on that roster, and I'm sure this was not the last we saw of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of rosters who we've seen really good things from are going to struggle with a composition like this. It's something we haven't seen in a while, with some heroes that we haven't really seen a ton from, right? So I think Daybreak, that roster will be back in a big way, once you kind of get things rolling yet again. But Shikigami was really good at playing this style.
I want to point out as well, like in the qualification process here, in stage 1, like Swiss is kind of unique. Like we haven't really done that before. It kind of means that like if you keep winning, your opponents tend to get stronger. And vice versa, right? So there's no reason for these teams not to really make use of that, right? To take advantage and to continue to put this time in. I mean, this team is already, top cut. When we're talking about a team that has made it this far already, they have a head start. They're already here in stage 1. I've been really impressed by them, but I have to say, like Shikigami Hikari, they win that one to me. Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah. Maybe like you just forget maybe that you're visible. You just don't think that's going to happen, but that really hurts here. Some fantastic individual moments, I think, from like a lot of these players. Vintage Dantwist and Aspect gave us some nice clips here for sure.
Yeah, and these two teams that actually matched up in the first round of, the Group A, where Shikigami actually won that one 3-0. So a similar result this time could just be like a pretty bad matchup for Daybreak as a team.
Yep.
Yeah, some teams just always have, the upper hand on you, and you just don't know why. And also, I mean, in their group, they also had Toronto Defiant, which is arguably one of the strongest teams. So it was not the easiest group to advance out of either. That said, they will still walk away with a few competitive points here, I think. Now, of course, our player of the match is Vintage, well deserved. Actually, the EMPs from Shiki were so on point.
Yeah, I mean, the EMP is like a huge win condition in terms of like certain fights or whatnot. You see right here, just backs around the corner. Yeah, then the EMP comes down. Really nice connections on the Virus. Obviously, like a huge skill shot added to Sombra makes a big difference. And right there, I mean, that basically gave them King's Row point A.
The cage fight really important, by the way, because it does block you. Like, it looks like a normal shield that you can walk past normally. You can't get out of that. So you have to EMP it so you can win the fight after getting rid of the Malga that's inside of it. That's like really heads up play, obviously, to make use of that ability there.
Indeed, and now we have Vintage joining us for a chat. Vintage, of course, congratulations to you and the squad. Let's talk about this, because while your team did fall against the Toronto Defiant in the winners match, you did make quick work of everyone else you faced in that group. We, of course, expect the matches to look a lot more competitive in the main event, which you now officially qualified for, so congrats on that. How do you think you are stacking up with the Toronto Defiants of the world in this new, still evolving meta?
I think together as a team, I think we're, if this meta sticks, I think we're cooking, honestly. But even against like the Toronto Defiants of the world, I still think we have a chance, even if we're not, 3-0 and a team of professionals. I still think us up and coming players, we got a shot to like leave a dent on them.
What do you think it is about this meta that works well for your guys' team right now? Because you guys looked awesome today.
I think we just have a lot of like mechanically like solid players overall. Like, mechanics is my favorite thing about the game. I love flicking heads. Something not really a head flicker, but like when we're all running down someone, feels great.
Now, we saw a switch up there in Colosseo, right? You're playing the Malga comp. You see you're up against a Sigma composition. You feel like that counters the Malga comp, is naturally strong against it. You guys eventually do opt to switch into a mirror, which you look a lot better in. So do we actually have like a natural counter to this Malga comp already?
I think so. I think there's a lot of ways to like space Malga, because once Malga has no abilities, he kind of explodes. He's a big hulking man, so he's kind of easy to just space out if you can, the long sightlines.
Well, it looked like you were very confident and competent no matter what you run. If you're cooking, we're eating. So thank you so much for that. We're going out of this satisfied. Congratulations once again on the W, and we can't wait to see more of you and the team in the main event.
Thank you.